happy holidays.
The Senate whole house will prosecute embattled Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko's impeachment after the House Majority Leader declined to give a notice of motion for the formation of 11-member committee to investigate the county boss. The Senate tonight opting to go the plenary route that sent former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu home. We have the latest tonight. Our reporters have been up and about and will be briefing us from the 47 counties. Sportsman Dennis Otieno will be joining us later to bring us up to speed with the latest from the fields. Good evening. These are the stories making headlines tonight. The Senate decides to hear impeached Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko in the plenary. Also tonight, cancer patient in Machakos County left seeking treatment at Machakos Level 5 Hospital, sent back home as healthcare strike enters day 3. Plus, even religious leaders cannot strike a common accord on BBI. Catholic bishop says as NCCK calls for a total halt of the process. Good evening. Tonight of all nights, Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. The Ministry of Health has directed KEMSA to release PPEs held in its warehouses on Friday this week. With the release, KEMSA is set to make huge losses in selling the PPEs in the current market prices. Joash Onsare begins our broadcast tonight.
The Ministry of Health says the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, is set to start releasing personal protective equipment in its warehouses. Health CS Mercy Mwangangi told Senate's Health Committee that the equipment will be released to counties starting Friday this week.
At KEMSA, Chair, we deliberated this earlier, and like I mentioned, we are in the process of trying to mobilize approximately 800 million for procurement and distribution of the stocks of the PPEs that are held in KEMSA to enable these facilities to be available to our healthcare workers across the country.
Mwangangi says the delay has been caused by the required procedures. KEMSA has been unable to release PPEs worth 6 billion shillings due to the ongoing investigations. A section of senators were pushing for the release immediately.
We also saw another directive by the government last week. We went to KEMSA, those things are still there. We cannot continue waiting on Friday, until Friday.
Last week, the Senate Health Committee visited KEMSA Embakasi warehouse and claimed that some of the PPEs were near expiry. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, embattled Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko will know his fate next week after senators in a special sitting today opted for a House plenary to handle Sonko's impeachment. According to Speaker Ken Lusaka, the Senate has slated December 17th and 18th as the date for the hearing and voting on the impeachment motion as fronted by the Senate House Business Committee. David Mudoka has the details.
The business of the Senate is about to kick off.
The Senate on Wednesday afternoon finally opted for the House plenary to handle besieged Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko's impeachment as opposed to the much-touted 11-member special committee. This comes after Senate Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio abandoned a motion that had proposed a select committee to consider the ouster. Now Sonko will know his ultimate fate next week, with Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka announcing the gazettement of December 17th and 18th as the dates when the whole House will probe and consequently rubber stamp or annul Sonko's impeachment bid.
The hearing of charges
for the proposed removal of office of a governor is one of the most important functions of the Senate under the Constitution. I therefore urge that the Senate exercises the highest level of responsibility on this matter. I thank you.
The four main charges against Sonko are gross violation of the Constitution, abuse of office, gross misconduct, and crimes under the national law. It is not the first time that a governor facing impeachment has been before the House plenary. Other governors are former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, as well as Governors Mwangi wa Iria, Martin Wambora, and Paul Chepkwony from Murang'a, Embu and Kericho respectively. For Wairia and Chepkwony, it was a sigh of relief for the two after the Senate found the two clean as a whistle. On the other hand, it was a trademark close shave for Governor Wambora after the court dismissed the Senate's decision to approve the Embu County Assembly's decision to impeach the governor. However, the same will not be said of former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu after the plenary found the controversial governor guilty, making him the first governor to be impeached in the history of devolution. This precedence is visibly a cause for alarm for Sonko, who was ousted on Thursday last week by 88 members of the Nairobi County Assembly. David Muthoka, TV47.
Elsewhere, the nationwide nurses' strike has entered its third day today as services continue to be paralyzed in many hospitals. This even as the Salaries and Remuneration Commission says there exists a collective bargaining agreement between the government and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Union, KMPDU, which spells out allowances to health workers. Zainab Mohammed reports.
The Salaries and Remunerations Commission, SRC, says it can't enter into another collective bargaining agreement since there already exists a CBA signed in 2015 and reviewed in 2017. The existence of 2015-2017 CBA provides for doctors' call and risk allowances, a CBA that prevents the salaries body from altering the payment amounts until its expiry. This is as the Kenya National Union of Nurses, KNUN, announces a total of 28 nurses who have contracted COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. According to the union, some nurses are going to work despite the nationwide nurses' strike that kicked off 3 days ago.
If you are a leader in this union and you sabotage this cause, we will suspend you, we will excommunicate you from the union leadership. You will never go close to this union for the rest of your life. We will not allow nonsense. If you are a union official and you are on the ground and you are being coerced, you are not going on strike. We are telling you, your days are numbered.
The union further says some counties are using blackmail and coercion to force nurses to work, something they will not be party to, as the strike will go on until all their demands are met.
I have directed any directive from any arm of government, and I'm very serious. We have 3 arms of government: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative. None of these 3 arms of government shall issue any directive for any nurse to go back to work. I want to tell those who are running into courts and obtaining court orders that those court orders are being issued against Occupational Safety and Health Act, Section 14. We will not go back to work where working environment poses highest health risk to our members.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops are pleading with the government to come up with a quick solution towards the health workers' strike, as the strike is crippling many public hospitals while rendering patients helpless.
The legislatures is treated with love, care and protection. Salaries and the accompanying packages for the lawmakers are always handsome. But doctors, the cry of these doctors, nurses, and support staff, some of whom stand on the front line, as is the case with the fight against COVID-19, is hardly listened to. This is the dilemma the government needs to address.
Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Still on matters health, and cancer patients visiting public hospitals for treatment have expressed their agony as nurses' strike entered its third day today. For instance, at the Makueni Cancer Treatment Center, patients were turned away as the health workers continue with their strike. Andrin Kilemi now reports.
Comrades, power! Comrades, power!
Cancer patients visiting Makueni Referral Hospital were turned away as nurses' strike entered its third day Wednesday. Sami Munyao, who was diagnosed with throat cancer a year ago, explains his pain and suffering due to lack of medical attention.
Na nimestuka sana kuingia kwa hospitalini nikapata madaktari wamelala, na ukiangalia upande wangu wa right utaona shingo bila imefula na vile inakatika yenyewe. Huyo si daktari amekata hiyo shingo. Hiyo shingo ni kuuma, inaniuma usiku na mchana mpaka na basti yenyewe. Na wakati nimestuka mimi ninaraumu serikali yetu ya Kenya. Kwa sababu daktari ana makosa, anaitisha haki yake. Ninaomba serikali ilipe madaktari ili madaktari waweze kuamka tuache kuumia.
At the hospital's waiting bay is Joseph Munyoli, who is also struggling to get medical services due to the strike. His family only hopes that the strike will end soon as their father's health was deteriorating.
Huyu ni baba yangu na anakujanga clinic, lakini hali yake haiendelei mzuri venye tunaona. Kwa hivyo lazima tumletee kitu wakati anaendelea na kungojea huduma, ndio asikue kwa hali mbaya.
Uwezekana mambo ya BBI, mambo ya siasa ingine yote kiserikali iwache, iangalie mambo ya madaktari. Sababu madaktari wakiendelea na hiyo mambo ya mgomo, wagonjwa watakufa wengi sana.
In Uasin Gishu County, the situation is not different as nurses and clinical officers joined in the nationwide strike. Led by Secretary General Uasin Gishu County, the officers want the government to supply them with quality protective gears among other issues.
BBI is inclusive of all the Kenyans. Why should the health workers be left behind? We are demanding we are asking Kenyans to support us like health workers. We should not be left behind.
Kama hakuna pesa hakuna nini?
Kazi.
Kama hakuna pipisa hakuna nini?
Kazi.
Hakuna nini?
Kazi.
Na musikie kama rais anapenda wa Kenya, please act on this. Cover PPs, risk allowance and promotions.
This even as health officers across the country vow to halt all medical processes until their grievances are heard. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
Comrades, power! Comrades, power!
Moving on, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops is keen on consensus building among leaders ahead of the proposed referendum fronted through the BBI Amendment Bill. The bishops opine that the country should approach the referendum united and sober. Mwangi Maina tells us more.
The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, in a statement signed by 24 bishops, proposed a raft of recommendations, including that of a continued focus on consensus building to bring everyone on board as the referendum bells call.
Important issues for discussion, and people still see there are important issues for discussion. We can use this time that in the best way that we can get solutions of what we want, instead of saying we have done this, we have finished, and yet we shall go back to it again. As we've been told here always, a referendum will be repeated here even now and then.
Tunasema tuenende kwa kufahamu na tulete hali ya consensus, ukubaliano wa mambo tunahitaji kufanya kwa sasa katika round table where possible, ili kusiwe na sababu za kusema watu fulani wameachwa nje au mtu fulani amesema maoni yake hayakuwekwa. Si yote ambayo tunaweza kuyaweka kwa wakati huu. Yale yanawezekana tuende nayo, yale tutakari forward, carry forward.
With the referendum process fast evolving, the conference opines that attention needs to be focused on educating Kenyans of the particulars of the BBI report through civic education. This, they say, will help Kenyans in making sound decisions at the ballot. The bishops say differences in political orientation should not resort into ethnic hatred, hate speech, and discrimination.
We should not forget that the initial issues of to be addressed were 9, of which only two, the expanded legislature and executive, are dominating the national discourse.
Mkenya wa kawaida aendelee kuelimishwa, kuelezwa kwa urefu, kufahamishwa kwa undani na kuona itamuhusu vipi hii katiba na mapendekezo ya mabadiliko, ili kwamba tusije tukaanza kupigania mambo ambayo tayari tuliyapigania au kuanza kukosoa mambo ambayo tayari ni rahisi kutekeleza.
The Catholic Church now calling for peace and cohesion during the referendum process, stating that the church will not be a spectator if peace is disturbed.
Maoni yaliyotolewa na BBI mengi ni mazuri, lakini kuna yale ambayo yanafanyika sasa, kuna yale ambayo yanaweza kujadiliwa katika eneo la mabunge, kurekebisha sheria bungeni, kuna yale ambayo yanahitaji referendum. So si kwamba tunapinga. Kupinga ni uwezi kupinga jambo ambalo ni la kwako. This is a Kenyan process. Kwa hivyo hatuipingi.
As the bishops were calling for consensus, members of the NCCK from the North Rift region called on the government to halt the BBI process until pertinent issues bedeviling the country are tackled.
Process hii ya BBI imekuwa shrouded pia na secrecy. Kuna siri ama ni wachache tu kwa boardroom wenye ni kama walisungumzia na wale wengine tu ni kupokea. Kwa hivyo the product hatujui itakuwa namna gani. The product may not be right.
The clergy is now calling on Kenyans to embrace dialogue to achieve the goals for which the Building Bridges initiative sought at the beginning.
The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops continue to insist that there is need for dialogue to iron out contentious issues in the BBI report, alluding that the referendum debate can wait until everybody has been brought on the table. Mwangi Maina, TV47 from Karen, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwangi Maina, for that report. You are watching TV47 News tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take a short break. We'll be back with more news after this break. Stay tuned.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka County 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo.
Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka County 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana.
This is TV47. Happy holidays.
Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us here on the county's television. Let's go to more news now. And the BBI Secretariat is scheduled to present BBI signatures to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, tomorrow. The Secretariat says that it has so far collected more than 5.6 million signatures that will be verified by the electoral body.
Is my co-chair, Junet Mohammed.
The Building Bridges Initiative Secretariat will present the 5 million signatures collected so far to IEBC for verification.
One of the signatures will be completed today, and we will submit the internally verified signatures in both manual and digital format to IEBC tomorrow, 10th December 2020 at 10 a.m. at the IEBC offices.
The electoral body will then have 1 month to verify the signatures before presenting the BBI bill to county assemblies. Kenyans living in diaspora had filed a case to the High Court seeking to bar the verification of the signatures by IEBC. However, Justice Jairus Nga dismissed the case.
No be any changes to the bill by the way of additions or subtractions.
A lot of busybodies running around here claiming to be having, 12-member committee, 13-member committee. As a secretariat, we are not aware of that. Our mandate is very clear. We have a bill. We have 5.2 million signatures. We have a date with IEBC. We have a date with the county assemblies.
The submission of the signatures giving a leeway for the amendment of the Constitution with no amendments being incorporated as being demanded by a section of leaders led by Deputy President William Ruto.
We are doing everything possible and working overtime to complete the process currently underway.
Deputy President William Ruto had presented a number of amendments as well as a consensus instead of a yes-no vote.
Elsewhere, business and continued trade relations between Kenya and Ethiopia are set to accelerate following the inauguration of the Moyale one-stop border post. And as Linet Gidwa now reports, President Uhuru Kenyatta and visiting Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also toured the new Lamu port that is still under construction.
President Uhuru Kenyatta and visiting Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Wednesday inaugurated the Moyale one-stop border post. Also inaugurated was a 500-kilometer Hawassa-Hagere-Mariam Moyale road, which is part of the Trans-African Highway and a key segment of Mombasa-Nairobi-Addis Ababa transport corridor. Speaking to residents of Moyale town on the Ethiopian side of the border, President Kenyatta expressed true partnership with the Ethiopian government in the rollout of joint infrastructure projects.
We want to see Moyale becoming the Dubai of this whole region. Watu wawe wanakuja hapa Moyale. Vijana wa Kenya wapate kazi, vijana wa Ethiopia wapate kazi.
The president also addressed the cross-border insecurity menace between the two countries, promising solutions to mitigate the SAR interactions.
So we must work together as two neighbors to deal with those elements who live in and amongst us and who threaten the peace and the stability of both Kenya and Ethiopia.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed reiterated on the continued partnership between the two countries, further pushing to combat militia groups standing in the way of peace.
Peace is a foundation for everything we are aspiring to transform the life of our people. If we could eliminate Al-Shabaab and OLA from this region, you can see how these people can be transformed into one family, one country.
Over the time, the inhabitants of the common border not only shared a common culture, language, agro-characteristics, but also intricately intertwined socio-economic destiny.
Later, the duo also inspected the Lamu port, set to be complete in the very near future. Completion of the first 3 berths of the Lamu port will require a road takeoff system to provide connectivity from Lamu to Moyale, to Hawassa and Addis Ababa, a distance of about 2,000 kilometers. Lynette Githua, TV47.
Elsewhere, today being World Anti-Corruption Day, Kenya has commemorated efforts from various organizations fighting the vice in the country, lauding them for their efforts. Our reporter Mariam Mwacharo has more.
Kenya, an organization that seeks to empower youth and children in the country, in collaboration with different youth groups who are involved in an awareness campaign in Kilifi County, to sensitize the community on various means of empowerment as one way of curbing the country's biggest setback to development, corruption.
Tunafundisha watoto skills, kwamba tukiwafundisha kama saa hizi umeona hili nazi ambalo nimelishika hapa, kila mtu unaweza lipata kila mahali na uliache, lakini nachukua hili nazi nikifundisha vijana na litengeneza linakuwa huyu samaki. Na kule kwetu Watamu ni tourist destination. So mgeni akikuja kwa duka lako, anaona hili samaki ananunua, alafu wale vijana badala ya kujihusisha na mambo ya corruption ama mambo zingine, wanapata ajira na kwa hivyo sasa hawataingia kwa hizo bad deals.
The chief officer in charge of the youth groups, Damaris Waswa, said that youth are faulting various stakeholders for not involving them in the anti-graft fight, ignoring public participation and awareness, leading to a lack of confidence with the EACC.
Jana tulikuwa na forum nyingine ambao ni virtual na ilileta pamoja youths around 50 youths ambao tulikuwa tunaongea kuhusu changamoto tunazozipitia kama sisi kama mayouth, na tulitaka sana hizi tumehusika kama EACC ambao pia tunashukuru walipata muda wa kuwa hapo. Tulikuwa na regional manager from EACC Malindi, na kilichojitokeza sana kwa hiyo forum, tuliona youths wana express ile disconnect wako nayo between community members and these institutions.
In Rift Valley County, activist chairman Kefa Were said that the EACC seems to be burdened by the only responsibility it is expected to undertake in the country.
Kama tume yenyewe EACC ni kama tume imelemewa hasa kwa mambo ya kuchunguza kama tume, kwa sababu ufisadi ambao EACC wanachunguza imechukua muda mrefu sana kukamilisha kesi zao, na faili zao nyingi zikienda kwa OTBB zinarudishwa nyuma kwamba wamefanya kazi duni, hawajafanya kazi professionally kuchunguza hizo cases.
The Land Commission has been mentioned as one of the largest dens of corruption in the country, with Kenyans required to offer a brown envelope to get services.
Kesi za mashamba sirudi vijijini. Wazee wakikaa wa hizo area wana history kamili ya the ownership tangu ya watu wakae. Watatoa maamuzi yanayofaa, ikienda kotini ipeane judgment, ita reduce mambo ya ufisadi na corruption kutoka kwa hizo ofisi zetu za land.
In Kiambu County, various stakeholders reiterated on the importance of walking the talk in matters corruption, as well as instilling a sense of integrity and honesty in the fight against corruption.
And act rather than have all these beautifully written speeches that we go and fire. Let us act.
I want to confirm that we as a county and together with my colleagues at COG will be working together so that we can start to get some of the best performing counties in terms of fight against corruption.
Our national values of integrity, patriotism,
and selflessness remains a critical component in the fight against corruption.
Mariam Mwacharo, TV47.
Thank you, Mariam Mwacharo, for that report. You are watching TV47 News tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. We are taking another short break. Don't go too far. We'll be back with more.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
Equity, bega kwa bega.
Wajuao walisema kwamba jina jema hung'aa hata gizani.
Na vilevile wakasema bora ni bora iliyoboreshwa, na habari za TV47 zinazidi kuimarika kila kuchapo. Tunasanzuka na kutamba ili kuhakikisha tunaweka bayana taarifa kemkem zenye usawa na mantiki.
Katika mida ya alasiri kabla ya jua kutua, kutoka kaunti 001 na kupeperushia shina la upeo.
Na inapowadia saa 1 kamili,
nachukua usukani kukufahamisha
na kukupeperushia taarifa ipasavyo.
Tutakueleza ni kipi kilichojiri na wahusika ni wepi.
Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki tukujuze, kwani usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how equity helped the local sector. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
This is TV47. Happy holidays.
Welcome back. It is exactly 6 days to Msambweni constituency by-election and campaigns have gained momentum. Candidates are selling their manifesto to the electorate. Leaders from the coastal region have called for peaceful election come Tuesday next week. Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi and Likoni Member of Parliament Mishi Mboko today led the ODM candidate Omar Boga's campaign, calling for unity before and after the election.
Msambweni parliamentary by-elections have entered the home stretch and the candidates are not leaving anything to chance. On Wednesday, the ODM brigade led by Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi and Likoni Member of Parliament Mishi Mboko campaigned for Omar Boga in some parts of Msambweni including Ganja and Mwembe.
Nataka niwaambie wakazi wa Msambweni, kura ni kutafuta, si kutafutana. Tumekuja hapa kwa unyenyekevu. Tumekuja hapa kwa heshima ili kuomba kura kwa Mheshimiwa Idi Boga. Hiyo ndio tofauti yetu sisi na wale wengine. Hatuna matusi, hatuna ubaguzi. Tumekuja hapa kwa heshima zetu.
Mishi Mboko decried that Msambweni parliamentary by-elections campaigns have renewed political rivalry between Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya and his Mombasa counterpart Ali Hassan Joho. She urged Msambweni residents to strongly shun divisive politics.
Wanagi! Mimi nataka niwaambie twakiramba. Asubuhi na mapema Mheshimiwa Idi Omari Boga ataweza kutawazwa kama mjumbe wa Msambweni constituency. Wapigana ya Boga!
There are 9 candidates that have been approved by the IEBC for the parliamentary by-elections, but the top candidates are Omar Boga of ODM party and Faisal Abdallah, who is an independent candidate.
Na sisi twabebana pale kwangu Mlima Hospital pale panapozalishwa. Kila siku mimi mbari zangu za Msambweni na Kwale kwa jumla huwa wajazalishwa pale na pale Mombasa County. Kwa wengine pia huwa wako Coast General Hospital, na yote kuwa ni sisi kwa sisi, mali ya yeye mpe yeye, twabebana, unatukurana kama twamwenga.
These campaigns have been going on for over a month now, with the elections set to take place on Tuesday next week.
Nina mama tutasafiri pamoja. Nimesikia kwamba machialedi wa vikundi wameitwa, wakaambiwa bila kupigia mtu fulani watapokonya hivyo visanduku. Ni kweli si kweli? Pigeni tena, muhakikishe mkipiga pale unapiga picha unasema umepigia boga. Hakuna mtu atakufanyia kitu.
Candidates have until Saturday to sell their manifesto to the electorate ahead of Tuesday vote. Msambweni parliamentary seat fell vacant following the death of former MP Suleiman Dori, who succumbed to cancer in March this year. Fatma Ngwena, TV47, Kwale County.
Elsewhere, the private sector is pushing for an air bubble agreement, labor segment, and interline agreement to revive the economy through deliberate actions to bring together the private sector, relevant government institutions, and the aviation sector regulators to broadly review factors affecting aviation, horticulture, and the tourism sector in their recovery journey. John Minor reports.
A financial outlook by the International Air Transport Association, IATA, indicates that revenues for airlines globally could have dropped by 50% to $419 billion from $838 billion in 2019.
It involves every person in this place, because the manufacturers, exporters, tourist industry, as direct from aviation. So if all that is done cohesively and the government assists in enabling laws and policies that they can be able to help us, believe me, this is the game changer, and it will be able to spur the much needed growth that we require.
The Tourism Federation Association are now calling on the government to officiate affordable costs for testing and acquiring the COVID-19 certificates, because the sector has had a problem bringing back the international tourists.
Advocate for customer-friendly requirement, especially for the PCR. Recently, from KTF, we wrote to the Ministry of Health through the CS's office to ask for consideration for an extension from the 96 hours. 4 days is not really realistic, maybe to 10 days or maybe to 14 days. Then probably we should try and look into the rapid PCR test. Someone has arrived and they can do a rapid test at a very affordable cost, because that's the other thing that I was going to talk about, because the testing is so costly.
Agnes Mushuha, CEO, Kenya Association of Travel Agents, speaking during the event, reiterated a report released by the International Transport Association that had announced that the airline industry will continue experiencing deep losses in the year 2021. Agnes stated that the industry is underperforming, and if the Sky treaties are set, the industry will gain a profit of $8.1 billion. It has been a turbulent year for the aviation industry, but like many other struggling economies, the airline operations are gearing to take off back to the skies and renew their hope of remaining afloat post-COVID-19. Joanne Minor, TV47.
Thank you, Joanne Minor, for that report. Time for us to get to the world of sports. Let's bring in sportsman Dennis Otieno, who is on standby. Dennis.
Well, Abubakar, tonight of all nights we have a number of sporting activities taking shape. Of course, among them being FKF getting to suspend 2 Kenya Premier League teams regarding a disagreement about a broadcaster's endorsement contract. Also, talking about FKF, they have been fined by CAF after breaching COVID-19 protocols for allowing specific government officials to interact with footballers. Now, this and more stories coming up in just a bit. A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno, and we shall start off with local news. Now, Kenya Premier League sides Mathare United and Zoo FC have been suspended by Football Kenya Federation from participating in the top-tier league, according to a statement released by the Federation Wednesday evening. The decision was arrived at after the Federation's National Executive Committee meeting at a Nairobi hotel. According to FKF President Nick Mwendwa, the two clubs have been given 48 hours to sign the FKF Premier League broadcasters endorsement deal in order to be included in the next fixtures, failure to which they shall be expelled. Now, Mwendwa assured players from the clubs that they shall be accorded a provisional window of 15 days to sign for other clubs should their clubs fail to meet their respective deadlines. Still on matters, FKF and Kenyan Football Federation have been slapped with a 1 million Kenyan shillings fine by the Confederation of African Football (CAF) for breaching the COVID-19 protocols during the AFCON qualifier match involving Harambee Stars and Comoros. CAF has accused Deputy President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga's security detail of forcefully aiding the politician's access to the Moi International Sports Centre Kasarani during the tie. The match ended on a stalemate, with Deputy President William Ruto giving the national team 1 million shillings token for the efforts in the game. Local grassroots coaches in Uriri constituency commenced a 10-day CAF D coaching course organized by the Football Kenya Federation and the Uriri National Government Constituency Development Fund. Under the tutelage of FKF and FIFA instructors Twahir Mohidin and Aol Omondi, over 50 coaches are set to benefit from the course. This comes as a result of efforts by FKF in building the capacity of grassroots coaches and bridging the education gap that had in the past denied local coaches job opportunities. In the last 4 years, over 3,000 coaches countrywide have been trained in CAF D and CAF C courses.
Not only are they going to benefit from the technical and tactical skills they are going to acquire, but it's also a source of employment for them. They'll be able to compete for the available coaching opportunities in the country.
Ni ya kwanza ya kipekee. Hayo mengine ilikuwa